Universidad Politécnica Metropolitana de Hidalgo. Licenciatura en Comercio Internacional y Aduanas. Base de datos.
Hello, class. Now we are going to talk about cells, range, references, and names. Well, as I told you, in Excel we have columns and we have rows. Now, the intersection between a column and a row is a cell. So, this is a cell, this is another cell, this is another cell. Each cell has an address or a name, and you can see it in the box name. The name or the address of each cell is formed by the column name and the row number. So we can have this cell and its address is C3, E11, A10, etc. In some cases, we need to refer to another cells. For instance, I can make a reference to the first name. I can do it by writing the equal sign, then the address of the cell. Also, we can have a range. A range is a set of one or more cells. For instance, I've selected a range. In a range, we have an starting cell and end cell. In some cases, we are able to make names. These names are going to be as references. By this way, I can understand better what is referring into a cell. For instance, I can call this cell as first name, then this one as last name, and this one as ID. For doing that, we just have to select the cell, then go to the box name and write the name for this cell. This is my ID number, name, and last name. By this way, I just have to write the cell name in order to refer it. Like this. Now, we have to take care that the name doesn't exist. For instance, I cannot rename a cell with a name that currently exists. For instance, each cell has a name. It is the column and the row. So if I want to rename this cell as A1, I can do it because there is a cell named with this name. So if I write that name in the name box, I will be selecting that cell. So I can name a cell with a name that exists. Now, each cell name should be named following next rules. It should start with an alphabetic letter. Then I can use letters or numbers and also the underscore. I cannot use spaces or special things. I'm also able to name a range. For doing that, I also can write the name in the box name. But also, another way to do it is going to the Formulas tab, then define name. By clicking it, Excel asks for the name, then I can change the proposed name. For instance, I give the name in Spanish, So it could be calificaciones. Then click in OK. I can see all the names that I've done. And if I choose one, it will be selected. In this case, I can write a formula or a function referring to the range or referring to the cell name. For instance, I'm going to get the average. If I'm going to write the function with reference, I can make reference to the first cell, which is C7. Then I can make the reference to the end cell, which is C17. Or I can make the same formula referring to a name like this, and we are going to get the same result. There are a couple of things that I would like to check. When you select a cell, you are able to change all the stuff that is there. For instance, if I change the format to make it bold, I just select a cell by clicking on it, then click on the button. Now, if we are going to edit a cell, we have to make double click on it, and the cursor is inside the cell. By this way, all the text could be selected or just a part. Also, I can apply some format options, but since I just select a part of the text, all these format options are going to be applied just the selected text. Coming back to the names, as I said, we have the box names. Then here we can see all the names that we defined. Also, we are able to go to the Formulas ribbon tab, then go to the Name Manager, and here we can add, update, or delete names. And also we are able to see which name we have in our workbook. Now let's talk a little bit more about references. When we call another cell value, we are making a reference. For instance, in this cell, I want to see the first and last name. For doing that, all that I have to do is to write the cell name or the cell address. I have the first name, then I'm adding an space, then I will have the last name. And that's it. In this cell, I'm referencing to the first name and to the last name. In order to see which cells depend on others, we have the trace precedence and trace dependence. If we select a cell, then click to the precedence, and we are able to see which cells I'm referring to. Also, if we have a cell, we are able to see in which cell there is a reference to the current cell. We just have to select the cell, then click on Trace Dependence, and we have it. We are also able to get these references trace with ranges. So I can see the precedent. Look, there is just one arrow, but it is selected all the range. Also, if we try to see dependents, we are able to do it, but it just means about one cell. Now, let's talk a little bit more about references. We have two types of references, absolute and relative. Let's talk about relative references. When we have a formula, we can make a reference to a cell. For instance, I will be removing 10% of each grade. In this case, I just have to multiply the grade by 0.9. And I can copy the formula. If you can see, I have a reference to C7. In the next row, I have a reference to C8, C9, C10, C11, C12, and so. It is because C7 is a relative reference. So the reference is changing for each cell in each row. We use absolute references when we want values not to be changed. For instance, in this case, we are getting 90% of the grade. We are able to set a new cell in order to preserve the 19%. And by this way, we can change it. And it will be changed in all cells. Let's see how to do it. This is going to be our main cell for the percentage. And now we have to multiply the grade by the cell where we have the value. If I do it by this way, it is going to work just for the first cell, because if we made a copy, the references are going to change. In the first cell, we are referring those cells. In the second cell, I'm going to refer other cells. In this case, E6 and C8. C8 is okay to be changed, but not the reference to E5. So we have to make E5 in the first cell as absolute. We can do it by adding the $sign like this. Now we have a result. Then if we copy, the reference to E5 is not going to change. So this is an absolute reference. Also, we are able to set reference just to a row number like this, or just to a column like this. Let's see another example working with the references, absolute and relative. For instance, let's think that we have a new office with some employees. Then we want to know how much are we spending by buying some products. We have the amount and we have the price. So to know how much is it, we just have to write a couple of formulas. For this column, we have to multiply the price by the amount. So we have the amount by the price. Then we can copy, and we are getting all the values. And all of them are in relative references, and that is okay. Now, if we want to know how are we going to pay without taxes, we can do the next steps. I will be adding a new column called subtotal. We know that we have a tax called IVA, and it is for 16%. So, in order to know what is the price that we are going to pay for all the articles without taxes, we just have to divide the import by 1 plus the taxes percent. So let's do it. It is the import divided by 1 plus the taxes. And we are getting the first value as well. But if we copy it, the reference to the taxes will be moved. So in the next cell, it will be referenced to E3, as we can see. But that is wrong. So we have to set E2 as an absolute reference, like this. Now, if we copy, every time we are going to make a reference to E2. So let's see dependence, and that is okay. So in each exercise, it is important to know which kind of references we need to do. I did all this calculus using references with the address cells. Let's do it with defined names. This can be the amount range, and this can be the price range. We have both of them set. In order to calculate the import, we have to multiply the amount by the price. So we have to multiply the amount, which is a range, by the price, which is another range. We have to take care that both have the same size. So by clicking intro, all the cells and all the imports are calculated. Now, if we remember, for subtotal column, we need to divide the import by 1 plus the IVA tax. Then we can do it by this way. Create the import range, and then we are going to name it as IVA. Then I can calculate it. Now I have to divide import by 1 plus IVA. And it is here. It is important to see that it is more understandable to read something like this with names than reading by just cell references or range references. Then, if you have a question, you can write a post to me in the right forum and I will be answering you. Thank you.